Figured that's all right. It sounded like an interesting conversation.
Yeah, well, you should stay around. I ended up having a conversation with both them two guys about the Bible and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I don't got a whole lot of time today. Once my wife gets home, I'm gonna spend some time with her, but I think I probably have like 25 minutes or so.
Aye. Good. Well, we are live now. Welcome back, everybody.
About the Bible and all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
Thanks for
the Bible.
Yeah, I don't got a whole.
There we go. I was hearing my same stream in the background. All right, Brody. Imagine you had only this amount of time to convince someone to come to Jesus. How would you go about that? What's the most effective way?
Oh my gosh. I've told you before, it depends on the person. Travis, you're a hopeless cause. I don't know how I could possibly convince you.
Well, don't lose hope on me yet. But what about
Okay.
what about like if you had to put a general statement out into the world, not knowing the specific audience member?
Yeah. General statement is that Jesus was a real person who lived in the first century, whose life and teachings changed the world forever, and if you want to know why they changed the world, you should read what he said and what he taught, because I believe some things that separate him from other beliefs are, for one, I think he correctly diagnoses the human soul. He correctly diagnoses the problems that we face in the world today, and I think he gives the best solution for those problems.
Right. And how do you know it's correct? Because it sounds like you're making a judgment on what he is saying and saying it's correct. So how are you judging that?
Well, each person has to make that judgment for themselves. The way I would look to see if something is correct is, does it align with the experience I have in the world? Does it align with things that I know to be true? And in that sense, I've witnessed its truth in my life. So it, yeah, and I think there's also, there's been tremendous work that's been done by New Testament scholars in the past century that have shown there's remarkable evidence for the reliability of the New Testament and Jesus's life that give credence to believing that he was a real person, not just some made up dude.
Right.
That's my pitch to follow Jesus is go check out what he says.
Okay. And what he says comes to us from what someone said he said in the Bible.
Yeah, well, it wasn't in the Bible originally. The Bible didn't, as we know it, didn't come around.
Oh, yeah. No, sorry. I should have said the Gospels.
Yeah, but even before the Gospels were written, it was just passed around by oral tradition through word of mouth.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Can I ask you? Look, I just want to ask you, like, for verification, like, who's your favorite New Testament scholar? Like, who is there? Someone you would recommend that people look into?
Yes, I think that Mike Licona. I think that what's his name? Sean McDowell has done a lot of great work. It kind of depends on what field you want to go into. If you want to talk about like evidence for the fate of the apostles, Sean McDowell does a lot of great work, which is kind of something I've been diving into. When you talk about the gospels as eyewitness testimony, you can look at Peter Kreeft. I think I always mix up these two. One second.
But they are biblical scholars, like they are.
Richard Bachman, sorry, was the Jesus and the Eyewitnesses is a great book that supports the idea that the Gospels were eyewitness testimony. the Peter Kreeft did a book about Christobiography, which is more focused on the fact that the genre was not fiction. The genre, the intent was to keep a historical account. So
Yeah, I don't think that any of it was written to be seen as fiction. Actually, I mean, even if it was fiction, I don't think it was meant to be that way. It was like, I think that's what it was written as a religious text.
well, when you say written as a religious text, like I don't think that the people writing it thought that they were writing scripture. I
No,
think
no, I don't think they had any idea they were creating the Bible. I think
right,
that,
yeah.
yeah,
I think they were like I think like it's clearest when you look at Luke. His whole goal was to just keep a accurate historical record, to interview witnesses, to gather his sources, and to write down what actually happened. That was his goal. Um,
I mean, I think like one of the New Testament scholars, which he's is Bart Ehrman. I think he's widely respected, pretty much, even though he's not a Christian.
who
You
Bart
have that,
Ehrman?
Yes,
you
Bart
have that
Ehrman.
book, Brody,
Yeah,
Jesus and the Eyewitnesses.
I thought it was
what's that?
generally accepted that the Gospels weren't eyewitness testimonies.
You have to. Well, so if you're saying it depends what you mean by that claim. Can you tell me more what you mean when you say that it's accepted that they're not eyewitness testimony?
My understanding that the most contemporary gospel was like 80 years after Jesus, and I can't remember which one it was, but I guess I never verified myself.
And the
Well,
authorship is anonymous.
they say that the earliest was the Gospel of Mark, which was sourced to come from Peter. Like that's where Mark got his information from, was from Peter. So if that's what you mean, is that it's not handwritten by an eyewitness, I think the only pushback you'd probably get is that with like the Gospel of John, which is believed that it was written by an eyewitness. But that's not the claim that Bachman's making, and it's not the claim that I would make, that every gospel was handwritten by an eyewitness, but rather that these stories were attached to named witnesses. So the reason we say like the Gospel of John or the Gospel of Levi or Matthew is because these stories we can track down their source. They didn't come out of thin air. And when they were passed around in the first century, before they were written down, they were referred to as holding the name of their source. So, like as Peter said, or as John said, or as Andrew said. And that's kind of the point that Richard Bachman makes in that book, is that we can actually they're not anonymous in the sense that Robin would say they're anonymous. Maybe they don't have their name sign at the bottom, but we can actually follow which names that these were all attached to.
Okay, I'm going to say that, like, I know one of the Gospels. I think it may be John, maybe. Okay, like it speaks about him in a third person. Is that the correct one? I would have to look back.
Yeah. He denotes himself as like the disciple that Jesus loved.
Yes.
Yeah, which is actually kind of funny to me. But do you understand the difference I'm making? Like, I'm okay with saying that the person who put the pen to paper wasn't the disciple himself, but these stories, that the source of the information was traced to named witnesses.
Doesn't that kind of feel like you're just redefining what eyewitness testimony is?
Sure, I mean it can feel like that. That's fine if that's why I'm making the clarification, is because I don't want us to be meaning two different things when we talk about eyewitness testimony.
So, do you think that eyewitness?
Wait, real quick. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I still don't even think that would be a redefinition, because like in a courtroom, if you have somebody say like I was there for this event, here's my testimony, the person who's actually putting the pen to paper isn't the person who spoke those words. But you wouldn't say that therefore it's not eyewitness testimony just because the person who's writing it wasn't the person who was there. It's the person who received the information and then put it to paper, you know?
I would disagree, because if you don't have a signed affidavit from the witness, then you don't have a witness testimony.
Okay,
It
I
wouldn't
don't
be
know a whole lot
admissible
about
in
the court
It
system,
wouldn't be
so that might
admissible
be clear
in court.
today.
That sounds like a not a here point, because you're talking about 2026 when what happened was 2,000 years ago. They don't have affidavits that, to my knowledge, 2,000 years ago.
So do you think, though, that if the eyewitness testimony would make it more credible?
Well, I think it would definitely speak to the genre that it's writing in, and the genre is what would determine its credibility. So, like, if the gospel writers were attempting to write a historical account, that's much different than if they were attempting to write like mytho history, or like a fictional account of something that they like wished they believed was true. I would take a text a lot more seriously historically if it was in the genre of ancient biography, which it seems like these were. And the best way to receive information about somebody is to hear from, the people that walked and lived and breathed and spoke with him and everything like that, who were there for the events. So it would give more credibility to me for sure.
See, I think that maybe and that may be a lot of like the fault on the atheist. Like I think that and there may be some atheists who make this claim, but I myself do not make the claim that I think that the authors of the Bible wrote these or like the Gospels or anything like that, wrote these with the intention of creating mythos. Like that's not the like the angle that I would say that
Yeah.
I think they could ride from. I think that probably the people who wrote these actually truly believed in these stories. I think that they were actual, like people. I think Jesus was probably a real person who had real followers. And I think that, once the story, got out that he resurrected, that there were more followers than believers that wrote about these things. I don't agree that they're eyewitness testimonies, though, or anything. But I don't think that it was written as fiction, like in to the mind of the people who are writing.
So, Robin, what do you think best explains what you just told me? That there were people who really believed that this happened, and they did their best to get the message out.
I mean,
Like,
I think that,
what
yeah,
explanation?
I think that at that time it was, like we got like even nowadays, like somebody coming in and like that the Jewish people were being, they were being occupied by Rome, which was, a very uncomfortable life for them, and it was like, it restricted their worship and everything, and they were. And so I would say that they were very much waiting for someone to come, especially if you believe that you are the chosen people of a God. Like if you believe that this was your God that had protected your people always, you would be waiting for that God to come in and do something. And then, of course, Jesus, if Jesus was a real person, I would say he probably actually had a ministry where he walked around and preached and things. And I would say that if he, like, stories of his healing may have passed around to others. I mean, like, I think that people like to share stories of like heroes or someone who's doing things. We love that kind of stuff, and we don't necessarily know that it's like, I mean, like things get built like that, and never or not intentionally. And I think that probably, and there is very well that after he died, that it could have been someone who thought they saw him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's true that there sure was a lot of wishful thinking in that population, given their context of the oppression of the Roman Empire. They wanted someone to be the Messiah. I mean, that's all of the Old Testament points to that. So they're waiting. I mean, Jews today are still waiting for the Messiah.
Yeah, because he
but
didn't fulfill the prophecies that the Jewish people were expecting. But like,
Yeah, but the problem I see though, or like the thing that I'd be interested in your thoughts on is, that Jesus wasn't the first person to claim to be the Jewish Messiah. He
Mhm.
also wasn't the first person who was crucified for these claims, and yet every time that these supposed messiahs came along and were crucified, that you kind of see the same pattern. Their followers go into hiding, and then they're waiting their own death because they were next. But something different happened with Jesus, and the fact that we still speak about his name, that people who had every reason to believe that he had died suddenly did a 180 and were willing to be put to death for the belief that he had risen. Like, what do you say about that?
well, I mean, I think if you're talking about the Gospels, about the apostles and stuff, I think that actually when we get into looking at the evidence of each one of them, outside of maybe Peter, I think is one of the ones that we have like some kind of verification of what actually happened to Peter. But I think the rest of them we actually maybe don't, or maybe Paul. But there's questions about Paul too, about like some of his, like half of his Gospels, about whether they're, or his writings, whether they're original to Paul or whatever. But I think Paul is probably the main reason why Christianity is managed to become a major religion. Like, it seems like that he became if Paul was real, he became very convinced of this religion, and he worked very hard to make sure that it was spread. Um, probably harder than any of the apostles did. Like,
Yeah, so one of the things that you see when you look into Roman history is that uh, there was a huge problem with dealing with this new movement very early after Christ's death. There's these masses of people who start believing in this risen Christ. And the problem is the threat of death didn't exactly scare them, which is the Roman Empire's main tool of fear is we're gonna end your life in a very gruesome way publicly. Um, but now you have all these people who are believing in the resurrection and aren't afraid of death, and to me that like is at least evidence. You might not say it's proof because obviously there's people that die for silly reasons, uh, but it's evidence that there's something different. This isn't just a normal occurrence. Like something very interesting happened, I've asked a lot of atheists about what their best explanation for this was, and I don't think I've heard one that's really better than the one that's given by the early apostles.
well, I mean,
Um,
I don't think that, like, um, I did it like a debate on this about early Christianity, because of like whether my debate was on whether Christians should support the Second Amendment. So like I did the debate on this, and so I had to go back into like early Christianity on where their position was. And yes, the early Christians were very martyred. They were like people who believed in martyrdom. They did not even practice self-defense. Like they were, they saw that as very righteous to be persecuted. And that goes all the way up pretty much until the Roman adopt Christianity as the state religion. So I would agree with that. They were very pacifist group of people who believed that being persecuted was something that was, showed God or showed Jesus how much that you ever like appreciated his sacrifice and stuff like that. I don't but I think that it was, it was something that people needed. I mean, like they were looking, and Jesus spoke to common people, obviously, instead of like, the wealthier class or whatever. And that was something that at that time, if you were a common person, it was a pretty um it was not a good existence always, and so they had very little hope. um and I think that he gave them a lot of hope. Believing in this did, that.
I would say it's a very unexpected hope, and that's like an important detail for me, because if you're talking about the kind of hope that a first century Jewish audience was looking for, their idea of the resurrection was a general resurrection at the end of days when God restores all things. Um, they didn't have within their theology the kind of resurrection that Jesus spoke of yet. And suddenly they go on to believe this. So they change their theology, they change essentially their religion, and the
Some,
people that are persecuting them are their former religion, they're the Jewish people as well as the Romans. So,
some. That's why I want to say some of them believed it. Like there's was a
oh
huge
yeah, I
of
mean,
people didn't
yeah, of
believe.
course the Sanhedrin and the Pharisees and all the religious leaders, they rejected this idea of the Messiah, and they fought for him to be crucified and stuff like that. But I
That's
think
the
that
story. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much of that story is actually true too. Like, we don't know. We just don't know. We can't verify that stuff.
okay,
I feel like that the church, they got a hold of the Bible and started assembling the Bible. I kind of tend to believe that the church placed a lot of blame on the Jewish people in a way that to make it look, I mean, because maybe they were at odds with that group of people. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm not saying it's not true, but I just don't know
yeah,
how much.
I hear what you're saying, and I haven't actually looked into that, so I'd be interested if you find stuff about that. I don't want to say things that aren't true. I guess just my focus is I'm trying to work from the things that you and I both agree on, which it sounds like you agree that there was a movement of people who were willing to be persecuted for this belief, that that this happened before the Bible was assembled, before Paul's letters were mainstream, and I think that unless we're using different definitions of evidence, that is evidence to me.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
mean, like
proof.
I think there is I wouldn't say there's no evidence because I think the Bible itself is some evidence. I don't know that I would consider it good evidence, but it's evidence. Like I think atheists are wrong when they say there's no evidence because that doesn't make any sense. I mean, there is
Yeah,
evidence. Um, like I don't know if you. I tend to I follow Bar Ehrman.
yeah,
Um, and so I tend to kind of, I won't say that I think that he's 100% right of everything, but I tend to accept his general, um, position. And of course, that's just my personal choice that I follow Bart. So, but I think that he is seen as a leading New Testament scholar, even amongst the Christian scholars. So I tend to kind of gravitate towards his position on most situations on this.
yeah. I mean, he is respected. I think he's a good scholar. I mean, I don't agree with him on everything, but I mean, I don't think he's a nut.
And he definitely believes that. I mean, he holds a position that these people definitely believe this. That this was a movement that gained followers, because it offered hope to the common person who was living in a really rough time in a period in time, and was being occupied by a foreign power that was not exactly always friendly to their beliefs and stuff. But
So for the Hebrews, there was this expectation of a Messiah who would be a political leader and would throw off the shackles of the government. But Christ explained that he came to fight a different war, saying we don't fight against flesh and blood, but against these spiritual powers over this present darkness. And for the people who endured persecution, they would not say that it was a lie what they had professed about Christ, and they would not give up that belief. They endured physical death because they were so confident that they had eternal life through Christ. And it was also like this like passion of like sharing the truth. And Christ came, first to the Hebrews. He said to go to all the world, but it was like birthed out of Israel. It was all about Israel. Christ said he came for Israel. And like these people, like the early followers, were Israelites. Like all the disciples were all Israelites. Paul was Israelite. And they had, found this thing that went against, the popular preconceptions of what they were expecting. And they found it so profound that they were willing to die and be tortured for it. That was something I wanted to point out.
Yeah, that's spot on. I would agree with everything you said. And by the way, Robin, that hope that captured the hearts of so many early Palestinian people is still available for you and everyone in this call.
Thank you. But I was a Christian for 50 years. In fact, I guess I still am, because I still belong to the church. But yeah, I don't believe that anymore. That and I wouldn't, like, I've pretty much went through most of the evidence that we have, like, many times over, and it would take some really good new presentation of evidence that we've never that we don't currently have before I would actually believe. Like, here's my thing. Here's what I look at too. This is one thing that I'll try to look at it is would this be like this is, and of course I'm not a god, but I try to think about, like, if I was God and I would really wanted people to believe this, and I really wanted people to find their way to this, to heaven, to get to heaven, would this be the best way to present this message to the world? And I think that absolutely, it is absolutely probably one of the worst plans on getting this message out to the world. It would have to be like the poorest attempt at doing this. I mean, like, he came back at this a time when most of the world was illiterate, into one, a highly illiterate place even, and just an obscure, small, like the area of the whole Bible, like how much of the world is included in anywhere, any part of the Bible. It's just this little small circle of people, like, and there's no there's no modern way, like there's no modern way to print off books. People can't read, and then they did it, like the texts have all these questionable authorship and everything, and we have no way, we don't have any of the originals. He didn't make sure to preserve any of the originals. Like, I just think it was like, I look at it a lot like this is not what I would see that a God would do if he actually had a plan for humanity that he wanted us to get access to. I think that.
Well, let me just say this. I think it's rather wise of God to reveal himself through a culture whose primary means of preserving truth and stories was oral tradition. I think I agree with you that this was long before literacy was common, but the people of Israel memorized and recited stories, genealogies, songs, the laws and the prophets, and they did it with a lot of care. The Torah itself was memorized by every student of a rabbi, every Jewish young boy and girl. And when you look into the Torah, you see the pre-announcement of Christ's arrival, and God spoke through. He kind of planted these seeds throughout Israel's history. If you talk about like the Passover lamb whose blood brought deliverance, or the sacrifice of Isaac, or the bronze serpent lifted in the wilderness, or the Day of Atonement, or the suffering servant in Isaiah. These countless images that were preserved by the people of Israel. I don't think there's any better condition where you can bring Christ into, because all of these kind of form a unified story pointing to Christ. And when Jesus came, he came as the fulfillment of this narrative that had been crafted over a millennium. So I just think it's like actually a brilliant plan that you have these generations of people who are faithfully transmitting this oral message, and all orchestrated to point to this Messiah that would fulfill these things. I mean, literally, if you just go and read Isaiah 53 right now, you can't, at least I can't walk away with any other idea than this is just like brilliantly done by God. That hundreds and hundreds of years before Christ ever stepped on the earth, he gave us a picture of what the Messiah would look like, that he would be the suffering servant, that the blood on the door frame of the houses in Egypt, the blood that covers, everything just points to Jesus in my view. And I just think it's been a story that God's been telling from the beginning. So I don't know. I'm very impressed by it. I know not everyone is, but.
Well, I mean, like, why was I've got to ask though, like, why weren't all like, to me, if it's so obvious that the Jewish people, all of the Jewish people should have seen that too. But like, this is a story. Like I said, supposedly God created the whole world. He loves all humans. He wants all humans to come to him. Okay, even today with Christianity, as large of a religion as it is, most of the humans that live on this planet are not Christians. It is the largest religion, but if you count all the other religions, most of the people on the planet are not Christians. So, like, this is, I mean, like, it still is not something that appears to be true to everybody. Like, it's, and so I've got to think that he knew when he created this that there, and it's probably been like that for since Jesus came, that probably 2/3 of the world were not Christians, and even when it was small, and I have no idea what the population was about that, but I would say that still though, since its beginning, there has never been a time when most of the humans on the planet were actually Christians. And even now that it's the largest religion, it's still not true. So, like, he made a religion to where most of the world would never be convinced of this throughout history.
Yeah, this will have to be my last word, and I gotta go. I think that the question of divine hiddenness is a great question. I'd love to have on this server. Just saying this so Travis can hear. Why does it seem like God has hidden himself from people, and why doesn't everyone believe in God if he wants everyone to believe in him? That's a fantastic question. So,
yes.
With that, I gotta go. But thanks for having me. Yep.
Thanks, Brody. Yeah, I mean, that question is, I think, a pretty easy answer for me, putting my fake Christian hat on. It's like, God wants you, according to the Christian, to come to him by way of your own free will. He doesn't want to do things that are going to make it too easy for you, like part of this Netflix journey that God has written out here, this reality TV show God is observing and created. part of it is wanting to, even though he designed it, somehow step out of it and see if the human being can win the game on their own and not make it easy for them. I mean,
Yes,
it's not a hard.
I would say yes. Like God, He also made it to where, like, when we got the ability to study these things and like really, really put scholarship into them and study them, that they would, that we would find like discrepancies and things, and so his plan was for us to, no matter what kind of evidence pointed into this not being true, for us to have to like just ignore all that and believe this. Yeah. As Matt says, faith is believing things without evidence.
Well, I think Matt says something more specific than that. At least he used to always say, faith is the excuse you give for believing something when you have no good reason to give.
Yeah. Because if you had a good reason, you'd give that.
Yeah, but then the problem with that is other people are going to come up and say, no, I think faith means something else. And it's like, oh, anytime you start kind of making up your own definition or usage of a term that's not common usage, it's not really that helpful. But
yeah.
But if you want to just simply describe, if you're just trying to describe the way you see people using faith, then that might be a decent description. However, the Christian or the believer is going to say faith is a good reason for believing. So then you're just arguing about whether faith is a good reason for believing or not.
That's true. And the Muslims say that same thing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Muslims I talk to promote the idea of blind faith as like a first principle.
When they have that scientific book, why would they need faith?
Well, I mean, they might see faith as holding as a high epistemic value. So they're not seeing it as something they need in replacement of a higher justification. They're seeing that as a high justification.
Hello, Thomas. I love you in red.
What's up, Tommy?
It's pink. It's pink.
Pink. It's pink. Okay. Well, it looks kind of reddish, but it's bright pink. Okay.
It's salmon. Okay.
You look really good in pink too. Salmon.
Oh,
okay. Salmon.
How are you, Trey? What do you think of all this God talk that's been going on today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good.
Yeah. That book's been on my list for a minute. I'm reading this other one now, but
which book?
That book he posted on there, Jesus and the Eyewitnesses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been on my list for a minute, but we were saying, I listened to a debate recently with Daniel Hakikachu or something like that, and
oh my goodness,
oh god, that dude, and there's another.
He's horrific.
Jay Dyer. I listened to that debate recently, and y'all have a point on how. I mean, this guy Daniel, he seemed like his faith is just iron hard for Islam, and
yeah,
I started to think like, what if I believe it's wrong? Islam is wrong. How can this person be so ironclad about Islam? So I thought that was interesting.
Yes, he is like Daniel is just like one of the Muslim apologists that I just think is the most horrific. Like he defends the most horrific things, like what Travis brings up about Aisha and her age and stuff and everything, and Daniel actually defends like marrying off to children at like really young ages and stuff.
Robin, we had one not too long ago that a Muslim, Muslim guy came on here and he said that Muhammad was a good dude or whatever. Travis was talking to him for like 30 minutes or 45 minutes.
Oh, it was like 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think they're going to have to say that if they're a Muslim, they can't talk about the Prophet.
Well, what he did say is that he didn't want to say it was a bad thing. Like, even if it was true, like most Islamic scholars believe that they believe it is true that Muhammad married Aisha at age 6 and then quote unquote consummated the marriage at age 9. I asked him, so let's say that part is true. Are you willing to say that that would make Muhammad a bad person? And then he wasn't willing to say that that would make Muhammad a bad person if he married a 6-year-old and raped her at age 9. So that was, I wasn't surprised to hear that. I hear that a lot from Muslims if I give them those two scenarios. But that particular Muslim does not believe in the accuracy of those ages
Story.
of Aisha.
Okay.
So he's kind of part of that more progressive revisionist. He was a very progressive Muslim.
He said when him and I talked to Travis, because he said, well, Christianity, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're wrong because the scholars say this and that about Christianity, but he's perfectly fine to ignore what the scholars say about Islam. So I thought that was interesting.
Yes. Well, Daniel Kikichu would defend that, doing that today. Like whatever ages we have on Aisha, Daniel would defend that happening today and still say that was fine.
Yeah, that's brutal. And then also, it was quite the juxtaposition, like that we had been going through and nitpicking Jesus's life for 2 episodes. And then we went on to Muhammad's life, like quibbling about things like, I mean, yeah, we're on YouTube, but whatever. This will hurt the algorithm, but raping a 9-year-old, like we're asking questions, would this make him a bad person? When really, I was quibbling about how Jesus handled the whole olive tree thing and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting to compare these two prophets, these two messiahs. I think one is obviously, I mean, from my moral standpoint, a good person and the other is not. And, one is wise and the other is not. Are you going to bed, you little goober? Give me that.
Jimmy,
I love you. Sorry, I just had to eat his head.
Yeah, that was interesting to me, and I just got to thinking about it a little bit more. And maybe there are forces at play here that we're not all accounted for, and that is what drives people to believe in things that you and I might say are false, but they believe in X just as much as you believe in Y.
Yeah. The another big problem, of course, is the trickle-down effect of these examples being set by the Jesuses and the Muhammads of the world. If you look at someone who's trying to embody themselves by try to live like Jesus. For me, as a moral well-beingist, they tend to be coming up right on top, like doing fantastically, where they are actually embodying that and actually trying to do that, especially if they are softening the way they approach discussing hell. So like, but when we have someone like Muhammad giving example, and we see all of this stuff, being a warlord, I went through the particular battles that I had gripes with, that I thought were offensive expansionism, and I just think Muhammad is a shit example of how to live. I'm not saying it's all bad. There were some pro well-being things that Muhammad promoted as well, but that doesn't cancel out the other horrific stuff. So
what are the forces you think that are outside of people's control that drive them to believe in what they believe in, something like Islam? So for example, you believe that there are no gods, but somebody like Hakikachu would, with the same level of belief, say that Allah
Right.
is the God. So
yeah.
what's that?
Well, I mean,
I mean, I think Daniel Hakikachu probably denies what I would consider facts about the world, the real world. That I mean, and that's not just my opinion. I'm talking about like what biology tells us about the origins of Homo sapiens and how the age of the Earth and things like that. I see those as facts about the world. Like, I think that we have enough demonstrable evidence to support all of those conclusions, or like that we've come to, like those theories, to where they are the most plausible, best explanation that is possible. And so, like, I think he ignores most of those, though. I think that so I think that when you ignore facts about the world, then your strong belief it is it's just belief. It's just strong belief.
Well, I mean, I think we all are engaging in strong belief, Robin. So I think what Robin's trying to describe is like this layer right here. But in the way you asked the question, Trey, what's going on there versus what's going on over here with me. I mean, we have our sentiments that do value sorting for us, and that value sorting relates to ethics and epistemics. So our knowledge making and our good, bad, right, and wrong making, and our experiences by way of our sense making apparatus are having an effect on our sentiments constantly. If you want to use the AI analogy I've been using recently, everyone's familiar with prompting an AI system. Reality is prompting us constantly by way of our sense-making apparatus. And we all are born into different experiences. Of course, none of our experiences are the same. And we're all dealing with a unique biology, although there are similarities. But I think we are, in that sense, at the meme level sense, not the gene level sense, but the meme level sense, we are products of our environment. So that means that if I would have been born in the Middle East, I probably would have been a practicing Muslim. My sentiments, just like they are now, would be value sorting for me based on what I'm seeing in my environment. Part of that thing will be like, seeing an elder you respect, like a parent, and how the elation and euphoria and awe that they get when they are praying. And you look at that and you're like, oh wow, that's something special. I want that. So that affects your sentiments and how it does value sorting. All of a sudden prayer becomes of high value. But that wasn't my environment that I grew up in. That wasn't the kind of thing that affected my sentimentality. So, and then we do have these circumstances where people like me who grew up non-religious come to find religion, again, by way of their sentiments, the same way we all find anything in this sense. And that just hasn't happened with me, or maybe will never happen, that my sentiments, by way of my environment, but also at the gene level, that combination causes me to not see value in the Christian life, in the Muslim life. Epistemic value, I don't see it. And I don't see an ethical value that would dominate what I can create for my own ethics. So I hope that makes you understand, like, the what I think is going on at a quite a meta fundamental level.
Yeah, I think you spelled it out pretty well, because he obviously believes in the Quran and all that, and he believes in it so strongly, and there's got to be reasons for his belief. And I think he's willing, like Robin said, he's willing to deny certain things or find his own justification to deny those things in order to promulgate or just argue for what he believes in as a result of all of those things that he's gone through. So
yeah, and
I
I
think
wouldn't
there's a
say,
lot of
like,
truth to that.
and I wouldn't say that's unique to religion, by the way. I see people do
Right.
that politically all the time.
I have
Yeah.
another good friend named Isa who is and Don knows him, who is a Muslim, and I consider Isa a highly moral, just a wonderful person. Like, he came to Kentucky when we had flooding and built homes for the flood victims here in Kentucky, stuff like that. He's just a wonderful person. Like, he does not, but like I see Daniel is just, I think that he is just a highly, probably immoral person. From everything I've watched many of his debates, and like, I think he just has probably some of the worst moral positions that I've ever heard on any one human being.
Yeah, so that's the so what I think you want to do here, Robin, is so you made proclamations about this person's morality. You would want to be specific in why you believe that to be the case.
Yes, well, I mean, I'm judging him on my moral position, and it's not nothing to do with, like I said, I tried to make the difference because of both of them are Muslims, so it's not the religious aspect of it. Like, it's not the fact that they have a religion, like, because they have the same religion.
Okay, so
But
let's
it's
tease
just
that out.
the actions and positions that they hold within that religion that I find horrific compared to, based on my moral system.
Which is, I think, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, the well-being of people, like, and like, not causing harm, and
Right.
and but like, just the well-being of
Yeah,
the
so
people.
you see this person doing bad and wrongful things because they're acting detrimentally towards people's well-being.
Yes.
Right. And
All
what
in the
would
name
some of
of-
those specific things be?
Well, I mean, like I said, he promotes marrying. You know, he is
Child
he has
marriage.
100%
Yeah.
supported marrying children.
Yeah.
Like,
So
that
child
is-
marriage to me is just, we can demonstrate, you know, so long as you believe in science as a way of knowing, we can demonstrate the psychological, the physical, mental, and social harm that befalls children who are forced into marriage and essentially become the property of their their forced spouse.
Yes, he's very supportive of the oppression of women. You know, he's fully
Yeah.
on board with all of that kind of things, and he thinks that all of this should be forced upon society to preserve the tradition or whatever. Like, you know, he doesn't believe in individual autonomy or people's right to make decisions about their own life. He thinks that this causes a disturbance in society, and so that we have to force people to live the way that he thinks is good for society.
Right.
Of course, he's very anti-LGBTQ.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, this kind of behavior, anti any, you know, human group of people, you know, those people specifically. I mean, I would venture to guess that a lot of, especially progressive Muslims, would disagree with that coming from Islam. But we get into that interesting struggle between fundamentalism, like dogmatism, and more soft religious practice.
I think Robin did a pretty good job at analyzing Daniel Hikikichu. She brought up one thing that I wanted to ask about too, in terms of atheism. As far as traditions go, atheism, like Travis, one time you said it's an open book, and you know, to a large degree, I think that is right. But it's like the last 250 years, there's been some pretty good atheists out there that are doing a lot of work, like writing books and stuff like that. So what kind of traditions do you think that atheism would have or maintain?
I don't think
in the
atheism
future?
has. Honestly, I don't view I view atheism as an epistemic position. I don't, like, someone might say that due to this person's atheism, it allowed them to create this moral standard which led to these great works. Someone could frame it that way, but I think it's better framed at, we don't even need to mention atheism or theism or whatnot. It's like, this particular moral system that is grounded this way gave rise to these great works. But if we want to look at it through the atheist lens, secular lens, like, we can look at things like Disney. I use Disney as an example of what I think is, like, for the most part, benign and positive for children to learn about the interpersonal space, to learn about lightheartedness, to learn about song, to learn about, so, like, I would say that Disney is a secular enterprise. So I would point to something like that being a great work born of something non-religious, even though the creator had some problems with Jews, apparently.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I do.
Yeah.
I would, maybe offer Disney as one of these great works that has become quite universally adopted across cultures, quite uniting. For example, Muslims, Christians, Jews, Hindus, all people travel and bring their children to Disneyland. Watch translated versions of Disney films. It's quite a uniting culture that I think is secular.
Do you think that secularism needs to leave some kind of tradition going forward? Because when you look at Christianity has been going for 2,000 years, and that doesn't make it true. I'm not saying that it's true, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of tradition here, and so is even with Islam is like 1,300 years or something like that. So
yeah, it's this weird thing where, like, even though, like, descriptively I am a secular person, I don't consider myself a secularist, if that makes sense. Like, so I consider myself a moral well-beingist. I consider myself, Pangburnian by my 6 virtues and maxims. So I happen to be secular, with regards to the atheism, theism distinction, but I don't want to be lumped in with large labels that contain a lot of horse shit that I disagree with. Just like, it's like, yeah, descriptively, your religious tray. But do you describe yourself more as religious or as Christian?
Christian.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that. Like, I don't go around like promoting secularism. I'm promoting moral well-beingism. I couldn't give a rat's ass if secularism wins out. What I care about is that maximizing well-being for oneself and those around them. That's what I care primarily about. That's what I want to win out. So I'm not in this. I'm not in this like truth. Truth is the highest value type game, and the best thing is to make what I believe to be true, which is the atheist position. Make that primary and win that battle. At the end of the day, that is not what matters to you. What matters to me is if parents are maximizing physical, mental, and social health for themselves and their kids. That's what matters to me. So, yeah, I mean, and if we want to take that abstraction, one layer up, yes, people who are secular and they have their own moral systems, they should be doing things and creating works that are maximizing physical, mental, and social health well-being for humanity. Like, I would look at someone like Carl Sagan with his beautiful books, his Richard Feynman's educational materials, Neil deGrasse Tyson's secular education materials, the amount of well-being that's being increased by people like that. The great works of oh man, I was about to call him Mr. Dressup, but it's not Mr. Dressup. It's somebody help me. I talk about him all the time.
Astro?
No. Children's show. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day to be named. Mr. Rogers.
I was going to say Santa Claus, but well.
Mr. Rogers. So like the great, works of Mr. Rogers that I don't think had religious grounding. I think we could call that secular. So like, yeah, continue producing and making great works like this that are that are out there maximizing well-being for people.
Yeah. I just thought of something really bad, but okay. Imagine if Mr. Rogers was Mr. Shapiro, and how hard it would be to get that on TV.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Ben Shapiro's got pretty.
No, I just put in a random Jewish name. I just thought it was.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there could be a show called Mr. Shapiro that could maximize well-being just as much as Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, it's a dumb joke. It's a dumb joke.
Yeah,
but anyway,
it's all good.
Yeah. Did you guys want to keep going on the subject, or?
Oh yeah, let's keep going. Let's not change the subject. Or okay. Trey's in his line of questioning here.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Thinking out loud. Some of the things I've been thinking about after I watched that stuff. So what do you? Yeah, I appreciate that you have something that it kind of transcends this kind of like, we can use politics for example. Kind of like if I were to come up to you and say like, well, you know what, my party is the best because of this and that, and you would just kind of go, well, does that help well-being? Because that's what's important to you.
So like when I go to vote in Canada, for example, 2 years ago I voted Conservative because they had on their platform, at the end of the day, when all things were said and done, the well-being outcomes were quite balanced on the platforms, except for, in my calculations, the Conservatives had reserved, I think it was like maybe 10 billion, maybe 20 billion, I can't remember what it was, to purchase much needed MRI imaging systems in Canada. Like that was one of their front running budget items and policies, and that ended up causing me to vote Conservative that year. And then I switched back to Liberal the next year. The Conservatives had dropped that offering. My vote didn't help the Conservatives because they just keep losing in Canada. And besides that time, I mean, I can't remember when I voted Conservative before that, but that one, when I did all the analysis across the board, that one attracted me, but it didn't change. Justin Trudeau kept dominating, and then I voted Trudeau the rest of the time. To me it is about that. It's about it really is about well-being. And I see the tricky work people do out there that some politicians engage in to try and trick people into thinking that politics and democracy should be about other things as opposed to well-being. Like, no, you see, you got to make economy primary, economic outcome, because that means everyone is richer. Doesn't turn out that way, does it?
Well, I mean, if
trickle down economics.
Yeah, trickle down economics has been, debunked as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and the thing is, the point of economics should be that like everyone gets better, that everyone's able to pay for what they need for. So what's the point of like being like an economic this or an economic that if it doesn't increase well-being?
Well, yeah, exactly. There needs to be a means to an end when it comes to economics, right? And and I'm not a foe of economics or having good, strong economics. Of course not. That would be a well-being as shooting themselves in the head in the kind of world we live in. But I really like the way Canada manages its budget and its economic system. I do think we could be swimming in gold in Canada. We are sitting on so many untapped resources, and people are always like, what the fuck's Canada doing? They got all these resources. Why aren't they, like as quickly as they can sucking it out of the ground and uprooting the trees out of the ground? If you look at Canada and how well Canada is preserved, people are like, the whole across Canada looks like a goddamn natural, like a natural conservancy park. Like, we really take care of the land and maintain the beauty, and a big reason is because of the effect it has on physical, mental, and social health to do this. So
yeah, those retards aren't destroying the forest and destroying the ground around them. What idiots!
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too that comes along with that. And speaking of the forest fires for a second, it's as the globe continues to warm, these kinds of events are going to become more extreme, and Canada needs to invest more. And it's a big budget item discussion about how we can get better and get ahead of these forest fire catastrophes, because there are always hundreds of fires during the summer in Canada burning, but a lot of them are not getting out of control like some of the large forest fires are, and Canada's got quite good at maintaining them, but when they do get out of control, there's only so much you can do to slow the burn. As the globe continues to warm, and we've had some interesting discussions on climate change recently, but there are some benefits that will come Canada's way, and this depends on whether we're able to slow climate change in the warming direction or not. But there will be some benefits that come Canada's way by way of warming, but those benefits are going to come with things like more extreme weather events, and that's going to be something that needs to be overcome. So when the world is looking at trying to control global temperature, and hopefully one day, and I believe we will one day be able to control this country by country, and maybe eventually as precise as city by city, one day. But I think all of this these are engineering concerns, and I think humanity will overcome these engineering concerns, including mass carbon capture, and things like this. But at the end of the day, Canada...
That's difficult on an energy level.
What's that?
So carbon capture from the atmosphere is difficult on an energy level, even when you're getting it directly from the source.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, from a thermodynamic nature, it's still difficult. But I agree.
Yeah, of course, it's an engineering problem. But luckily, the richest people on our planet seem to care about wanting to solve that problem, which is great. One thing I just wanted to cap this off with on this issue, for anyone who catastrophizes over climate change, I don't think you should be catastrophizing over climate change, but it's a serious issue that needs to be addressed and prepared for. But it might just be the case that Canada is going to be happy with the effects of global warming, including the extreme weather events and different things that accompany this kind of change. So, and that may not be the case, but it is actually a worthwhile conversation to look at those details and to look at the predictions. I highly suggest the NASA website as an authority on the actual global climate science data that's available. But what you will find in the climate change discussion is a lot of dogmatism, and the dogmatism and the certainty posturing and the radicalization, the extremism should be rejected, and you should be able to engage in a positive utilitarian lensing of climate change and the more common negative utilitarian lensing of climate change. Climate change is not a free lunch in either direction. It's a very serious thing that affects food cycles. it does affect in a trickle down way weather, and it's not, climate change is not weather, by the way. That's a common misconception, but it obviously affects it in a trickle down way. But I think the most low resolution conversations related to climate change are the ones that can't turn on their positive lensing because they're too frightened of the of what's going to happen. For example, in parts of Iran where it's already has become unlivably too hot, where people die outside at certain stages during the summer because they get caught outside and it's just too hot for human beings. People die just heat death. So yeah, and again, these things can be engineered around, but we're talking engineering marvels like the Earth has never seen. But
you're right on that point. I will say that it's like we can do a lot of engineering, we can do a lot of science, and that can help us roll back a lot of the issues that we've presented by liberating, particularly fossil fuel carbon, but a few other carbons. But at the same time, as much as we can do that, it's gonna make it a lot easier, and we're gonna need to make a much smaller marvel the less we do it now and the more we go to alternative sources. Not that those alternative sources are perfect, but it might be easier to fix some sort of heavy metal stuff than it is to purge the atmosphere of our carbon dioxide, which is a thermodynamically challenging problem, and also it lasts a long time.
Yeah,
so that's what I'll say.
It's very challenging. I saw this idea somewhere, and I don't know how serious it's being taken, but it was on an official paper. I'll have to see if I can find it. But it was an idea of creating a machine that kind of operates like a bacteria response to carbon in the atmosphere. And that was pretty cool. And it's something that would be able to self-multiply and things like this. Easy to shut down and destroy when the machines has done enough work. So there are some interesting ideas out there. But
I got a question.
Carbon sequester is right. The biggest carbon sequester is algae in the ocean. And then I'm pretty sure one of the proposed mechanisms that it actually gets out of the system is a lanternfish then eat the algae, then they die and they sink and they go all the way to the bottom of the ocean, and that carbon stays there in a non-gaseous form. So that's actually one of the ways that I've seen it proposed as like the largest mechanism. So it's very similar to that.
Yeah, so I've seen a few little variations of that, and that's pretty interesting. We're getting into some wild, like if we imagine, like I also imagined like what carbon vacuums moving across the sky would look like as well. Like these, I'm talking carbon vacuums that are like these like massive, like translucent sheets that you would look up, and they're just like covering large portions of the sky you can see and just slowly moving across, right?
But Uncle Travis, if we do that, how are we going to pay for all the bombs we're going to use on innocent countries that don't have anything to do with us?
That's true.
Well, first thing the bombs can do is D's nuts, I'm thinking.
There you go.
So
yeah.
So carbon capture and storage, so CCS. I just want to read this quickly, and you can go, Arsion.
Sure.
So carbon capture and storage, CCS, captures CO2 from power plants or factories before release. And then what we've been talking about, carbon dioxide removal, CDR, removes CO2 already dispersed throughout the atmosphere. So I should probably start saying CDR, carbon dioxide removal, as opposed to carbon capture. Sometimes I hear, though, even in academic discussions, people talking about that technology as carbon capture technology. But anyways, so we have some, that's the protect and restore forest. biochar from genuine waste biomass, so stores carbon for centuries while potentially improving soil. Yeah, okay. Direct air capture with geological storage, highly measurable small land footprint. Geological storage can last 10,000 years. Currently expensive and energy. Yeah. Ocean. Oh yeah, ocean. You increase the alkaline in the ocean, so enormous theoretical capacity and potentially very durable storage. Still scientifically and ecologically uncertain. Should remain in controlled trials for now.
Yeah, questionable. But that is an issue. People talk about global warming. I think what's more important is oceanic acidification. We've all had soda, right? The reason it's fizzy is because they just pump a shit ton of CO2 in the headspace and it gets carbonated, right? And we keep it carbonated by having a high concentration of CO2 in the headspace of that bottle. The more CO2 in the atmosphere, the more carbonic acid is going to be formed in the ocean because the CO2 is getting absorbed in the ocean. And as much as living beings are temperature sensitive, they usually have a pretty wide range. Most living beings don't have a very wide range of pH. It's a very narrow range, especially because of enzymes and enzyme activity. That's a big issue, and that could actually cause an ecological crash within a decade if we're not careful. That's way more important than global warming to me, personally.
Yeah, I mean the global warming issue though is such a mass effect issue. When we start looking at what
they're both linked,
they are linked. Yeah. So I want to see okay. Yeah, it's hard to find any realistic ideas that are being taken seriously for the CDR, the carbon dioxide removal issue. I know they did. Didn't someone do $1 million challenge? Not too far in the past for someone to come up with some kind of technology like that. Also, Arsian, you've been trying to speak for a while. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I mean, I was going to change the subject. So if we're on the same subject, I'll just be quiet.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I've got a solution. We take one of the dying salt oceans, right? We dilute the shit out of it with fresh water. That way we can get to something relatively close to what the algae in the ocean do. And then we feed the shit out of this algae and we use that as a giant sequestering pool for carbon dioxide. And then also simultaneously we start moving away immediately from fossil fuels with whatever incentives we can. We put as much resources as we can into particularly nuclear.
Yeah.
Within 20 years, we can phase out all of our fossil fuels. The only issue will be batteries, but batteries are already pretty good. If you need to go really far, we can use trains, and the only time we use fossil fuels are on trains and boats. And boom, it's not going to save the world in a year, but over 2 decades, we'll be on the right track. And over 5 to 10 decades, the effect that we had on the Earth will be relatively minimal.
So these are things we can do. Yeah, go ahead, Arsen. Yeah.
I was going to say, it seems a little utopian. I think if the Earth is heating up, maybe you could make a big ol' ice cube and put it on the Earth. Just cool it off. No, okay. Serious conversation about that. Like the train thing. I would like trains maybe from city to city, but we are a really, 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 really big country, and yes, we did have rails for a long time. But those are mostly coal fueled, and fueled by a lot of fossil fuels. And nowadays, a lot of what we get is actually powered by large amounts of trucks. We get most of our supply chain through semis and in the trucking industry.
Yeah, but so we don't need to have fossil fuel trucking industry. Not anymore.
Well, we need to phase it out, I think, but I think it's a little bit fantastical to believe that we don't need fossil fuels anymore. I think we're getting closer to that, and I think we just
I
need to do it.
agree. Well, we don't need fossil fuels. They just are cheaper in like every way.
Well, we've also learned how to use them as effectively as we can for longer. So we just need to invest more money and more time into doing better with non-fossil fuel based energy.
Yeah, but the thing is, we can't just invest more money into doing non-fossil fuel things without actively incentivizing them or actively disincentivizing fossil fuels. I can see that in some spaces it might be a better like opportunity cost to allow fossil fuels in certain areas like shipping, even maybe semi. But the thing is, the more that we allow on the lower efficiency of the spectrum, basically anything that's not trains and boats, the longer we're going to prolong the issue. So I agree, but the goal has to be phasing it out, not just giving us a new option that's more expensive.
Yeah, but I also would say that we need to do it correctly, especially in the third world. We need to be careful about how we do it there, because a lot of those places don't have the infrastructure or like the economy to support like a lot of the projects that a lot of people want. And I think we should like try to help them out of poverty and develop their way into more clean energy solutions.
I mean, if you can demonstrate a way in which first world countries or Western countries, whatever you want to call them, developed countries, moving away from fossil fuel hurts developing countries, I'm open to hear it, but I don't see how us actively investing in making that technology that we want them to have better and moving ourselves away from the dirty stuff is going to hurt them in any way.
Well, that's not exactly what I was saying. What I'm saying is like a lot of regulations and a lot of incentives to make them move over to clean energy can can be really expensive and hard to transition into, and it can make it really hard to do it on a mass level for a lot of poor countries. And so a solution that I think needs to be needs to be that first world nations need to do it for themselves first and help by investing in this technology to make it become cheaper and more readily available, while helping third world countries develop themselves into an economic situation where they can more easily afford these new technologies.
Can I
I'm
just
not really sure where you think
sorry.
I'm going with this, but I'm not saying that we should send NATO peacekeepers into developing countries and start, arresting people that have fossil fuel burning vehicles.
Okay, well, I that's a little bit of an extreme version of what I was saying, but I think of that maybe we might be talking past each other a little bit. I might have misunderstood you.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm being exaggerated, but like I'm not saying that we need to stop the import of fossil fuels into developing countries. I think we should focus on ourselves primarily, and then if we can help our neighbors and our neighbors' neighbors, that's even greater.
All right, so I found what I was looking for initially. So direct air capture, DAC, with regards to carbon capture directly from the air. So how it works: large fans move air across a chemical material that selectively binds CO2. The material is then heated, placed under vacuum or electrically stimulated, releasing a concentrated CO2 stream. The capture material is reused. The concentrated CO2 can then be compressed and injected underground. And the two most established approaches use either solid sorbent filters or liquid chemical solvents. However, atmospheric CO2 is extremely dilute. NOAA measured the April 2026 global average at approximately 428 parts per million, about 0.043 of dry air. Theoretically, obtaining 1 ton of CO2 requires contacting roughly 1.27 million cubic meters of air, even before accounting for incomplete capture. So the strongest DAC designs, there's the solid sorbent DAC, like we talked about. Air passes over porous filters coated with chemicals as amines, I think it is. Low temperatures, heat, and vacuum release the CO2. Okay, can waste can use waste heat or geothermal heat. Modular and potentially mass manufacturable. Generally operates at lower temperatures, suitable for permanent mineral storage. And then there's the liquid version and the electrochemical. So capturing CO2 is only half the solution. DAC becomes genuine carbon removal only when CO2 is stored for a long time. So we got to figure out where to put it, right? The best
We could probably
destination. Sorry, go ahead.
Up our butt.
Yep. Put
yeah,
it back up our
absolutely. You
ass.
know, your prison wallets. You know, that's where everyone puts all the good
Prison
stuff that you don't want.
wallets. The
Yeah.
best destinations are deep saline geological formations, basalt mineralization, stable carbonate construction materials. Yeah, that you know, building construction materials, other
Yeah, I was going to say,
verified
can we
mineral
reuse
storage
them?
systems. Yeah, we can
Yeah, I was
reuse them.
going to say, can we recycle? Yeah, we could recycle some of these. Yeah. Yeah, why not? They're chemicals. You know, we could. You know, there's probably all sorts of good stuff we could use for them for.
Yeah, so we got to figure out a way to just make all that more efficient, because it's you don't get much bang for your buck there when you're trying to. Where's that sum I was just reading? Did I go too far here? I did. Okay, so yeah. So atmospheric CO2 is extremely dilute. It was measured in April 2026, the global average at approximately 428.55 parts per million. Okay, 0.043% of dry air. So theoretically, obtaining 1 ton of CO2 requires contacting roughly 1.27 million cubic meters of air. I just need to know, what would this technology look like imagistically? I just want to see what this technology looks like. But yeah, any other thoughts, folks?
On anything?
Yeah, sure. It can be on anything.
Okay. So, how much time we got left?
We got a bit, like an hour or so.
Okay, that'll work. So can we?
Oh, wait,
so we're switching topics.
Arsian, before you go, I just want to say that for anyone that didn't know, Andrew Tate now faces 42 charges in the United Kingdom. The UK Crown Prosecution Service recently authorized 32 additional charges against him. So 7 further counts of rape, 3 counts of facilitating trafficking for sexual exploitation, 3 counts of assault causing actual bodily harm, and 19 offenses relating collectively to indecent images of a child and extreme pornography.
Okay, before I say what I'm about to say, I just want people to know I'm not celebrating that those things happened. I'm simply celebrating the fact that he's getting charged for it. Yes, let's go.
And
He's gonna face.
he got arrested by marshals. He's getting extradited.
Yes, he is. And so, guys, I am not celebrating that he did those things. I'm celebrating that he's getting consequences. Let's go, baby.
So just to be clear, you're celebrating that he did those things.
No, well,
yeah, I don't think you needed to clarify, brother.
I'm kidding. I'm just
no. I just it's a sensitive subject. It's a sensitive subject because
I'd say
there's child abuse. There's child abuse material in there, and also grape is like a very, very evil thing. Well, why am I saying grape? I'm on YouTube. I can say the real word. I'm so used to TikTok language. Ugh. Anyway, but thank you for letting me know that, Travis. That's really good. I hope Lauren gets her justice.
Yeah, I don't know the story related to Lauren, but
Oh,
Yeah.
But no, she wrote about it in her book. Tate assaulted her.
okay.
Yeah. So, bye, Tate. Have a nice trip in hell. They don't take too kindly to people like you in prison.
I don't know. It's going to be a UK prison. They'll probably squirt them with a hollandaise sauce or something.
So you're saying when you drop the soap, they offer you tea and crumpets first?
I think so.
Is that what we're getting at here?
Yeah, they'll just be like, right, mate, before we do this, we gotta be at least a little polite here.
Yeah. Okay, well,
Yeah.
that I just, there's been a recent update. It looks like some charges added. So, yeah,
Thank you for that, by the way,
we'll have
Travis.
to see. We'll have to see what happens there.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I really appreciate that. So I actually wanted to talk about getting a little political here. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sweet. So, as many of you know, shameless plug for my Substack, I write on there, and one of my recent articles was on the new rules for conservatives. Um, and one thing I tried to do was take a through line through what I feel is the heart of most American conservative belief systems, and try to pin it down into boil it down into a much more substantive set of rules, rather than, because I thought there was a lot of artificial ones, and I wanted to push back on a lot of what they've been what the more recent conservative movement has pushed, because I just feel that they've kind of lost the plot. I think that they have lost a lot of what they used to be, and I think it would be good for them to change.
Okay. Any thoughts,
Yeah.
anybody?
I read it, and I don't know. It was okay.
Is it okay?
I'm not a conservative, but if conservatives did about 80% of those things on that list, as opposed to things they do now, I'd be more likely to follow them. It's hard to say anything though without you actually going and reading it.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I thought was kind of important to highlight was something that I think is a big issue in a lot of circles, is that they push marrying young. And I always thought that was kind of odd, because according to the statistics, the people who are more likely to remain in marriage, which I think should be the real point of being married, is that, you're deciding to be with someone forever. You're not deciding to break up very easily, and you want to keep the family together, are people who are marrying later in life, people who marry in their late 20s and early 30s. The data, from what I've seen, says that that you're actually very, very likely to get divorced if you marry in your late teens or early 20s. And so one of the rules I put in there was marry. I keep saying so much. I got to take away these filler words out of my language. But one of the rules I have in there was marry for. Sorry, date for marriage, not to get married young.
I
Because
mean,
I feel
what
that that's
about
a much more.
what about just dating not for marriage?
I think most people.
What?
Travis, how dare you? How dare you question my ethics? But I think you should be allowed to. But I think it's much better when people do date to get married, because I feel that, well, first off, we know that people are more stable in marriages. People's overall wealth goes up. People as people get older, um, there's going to be fewer people who want to stick around in your life, or have the ability to, because people settle down and have kids and stuff like that. So a spouse is someone you can depend on for a longer period of time. There's a lot of benefits that come with marriage that I think you'd be missing out on if you didn't. Now, again, I do think that, if you don't get married but you're not sleeping around a lot, this is all coming from a very conservative point of view. So obviously, you're probably going to disagree with a lot of it. I think that if you don't get married and you're being monogamous, I think that's probably a good thing, in my very biased opinion. But at the same time, I think marriage just stabilizes people. I think it makes people more I think it has better outcomes than dating for funsies.
But even if that was generally true, that shouldn't be applied to the individual. Do you know what I mean by that?
I think I do. I'm
like
not.
like
Here's the thing. I'd
everyone,
rather people
like,
be.
you know, there will be people who are ready to date, but there are people who are not ready to consider marriage yet because they don't know if they want to get married.
Right. I understand that. My one issue is if one of your partners, if your partner is looking for marriage and you don't know yet, maybe you should either break up with them or or have a deadline to decide, because you could be wasting their time.
Yeah,
there's going to be 20-year-old service members that are ready to get married like a month before they deploy to another country. However, if you're an NCO that knows jack all about anything, you're not going to ever recommend that they get married just because you know the statistics on it. That's the way I see it.
Well, but here's the thing. When it comes to the military, that's kind of a unique position, because the military people, kind of like truck drivers, are gone from their families for a longer period of time. So infidelity is more likely to happen. And even when it's not infidelity, there's more likely to be divorce just because the person feels lonely and because they can't see their significant other very much.
I know. I picked it for that reason specifically. Like, right, if we know for a fact that people that get married between like 18 and 24 get divorced more often than people that get married between 25 and, let's say, 35, then you don't tell people that are between the ages of 18 and 25 don't get married, but you might give them the advice, hey, you've got the rest of your life, you can wait 10 years, and at worst, you just don't call this person your wife or your husband for the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah. And you might even be better set up then. But that doesn't mean that you're not saying that those people can't get married, like Travis might have been construing. It doesn't have to be either or. You can just say, hey, conservatives, maybe we should stop racing to getting married. And the reason they race to get married very often is because they have this rule that they can't have sex until they're married. And then they get married, they have sex, they realize, oh, this doesn't work out. I don't like this person. This person left a month after marrying me, went to Korea and started cheating on me immediately. Does it sound like this happened in my life? It didn't happen to me, but it happened to one of my friends. And she's gotten married and divorced like 2 times now. She's younger than me. And she's got a kid.
That's not.
And now she's a lesbian. Like, I think this is what you're trying to avoid, Artian, where conservatives are like, oh, to protect my chastity, let me get married as soon as possible to go have sex, and then all of a sudden you're 3 times divorced by the time you're 30.
That's why they're
not a good system.
I say, Jay, that's why they're wanting to get rid of no-fault divorce. But you got to remember that they see women as racing against their biological clock.
Well, here's the thing. There is a small incentive, I feel, to get married young, because the younger you are when you have kids, the more likely it is that you'll be able to chase them around and chase around grandkids when your kids grow up and have kids of their own. But I consider it more important. I consider it more important to raise healthy kids, and healthy kids. We have stats on this. Kids who grow up with single parents are far worse off in general, most of the time, than people who have 2 parents.
Right. But again, Arsian, these general statistics, like these are very Jordan Petersonian statistics you were talking about here. They should not be applied as a prescription for the individual just because it's generally the case in a wide base statistical reality, right?
No, I right. Well, I think that individual cases are always unique. You should because there's so many factors that can go into one person's life situation. So I understand that, but I'm saying, like, on a mass scale, I think that if we give advice to how we want society to be ordered, it should be based on like what we can commonly see very, very often happen over and over and over again.
Yeah, I don't understand how, like, we have very good data showing a risk level of a certain action, and we can say, okay, well, yeah, that risk level does exist and it's valid, but it doesn't apply to an individual because that individual might not be the person that risk happens to.
Well, it's not might
it's like
not.
saying you
It's
shouldn't
not
get
might
health
not.
insurance because your house might not burn down.
It's not might not. It's that the statistical relevance of a lot of the things that are being cited here are like, you know, the majority of people will experience X. It's like how much majority are we talking about? 55%? Like the reality is that it's better to navigate your life in healthy ways with no reference to these wide-based statistics, with reference to good healthy living, which will be determined by things like the biological sciences. Like, this is good healthy living from like a diet perspective. This is good healthy living from a relationship perspective. None of these are going to reference these wide-based statistical successes or or failures. And we can look at like I just pulled up here, and I just want to read some of this information because we were talking about marriage here. So a recent study of 2,150 married and cohabitating adults found that relationship quality was more strongly associated with health than marital status itself, because I feel like marital status being treated as the ends here, not a means to a greater end, is a problem. Like, people getting married for the sake of marriage.
I definitely don't want people to get married for the sake of marriage. I'd rather people be single, or just unmarried.
So like,
if they. Yeah.
So then we then we should cut out the marriage prescription here altogether. We should say we want people to be living maximally well lives by measurable standards. I use physical, mental, and social health.
I agree with that. I thought you two were arguing the same thing at first, but no, and I do think this is kind of what I was thinking when I read this from you, Arsen. It's that, like, you say, conservatives should marry to be married as opposed to marry to be married early. Like, they should marry because they shouldn't marry to marry. It's that they should pursue relationships
I think
that are long,
because they feel it's the right thing for them. Yeah, I feel the most important thing is to get married because you genuinely feel it's the right thing for you. But I do think that people would be better off married than unmarried in most cases. But again, I think that's an individual choice. I think
it's not about being married, right? It's about having the person with you.
Yeah, correct. It's also about the quality of the marriage itself. But the thing I really wanted to push is this idea of whether it be marital or relationship, just relationship health is what I think conservatives should push a little bit and more, and especially if there are kids involved. And
relationship health, yes, 100%.
Yes, but here's something that I think you'll find a little controversial. Well, not even controversial, but you might disagree with. I think marriage is a good thing if you want to have kids, because I want people to have two parents to rely on.
I mean, I don't think you need to be married for that. I mean,
but you do share a lot of things that I think is probably good to share if you're both parenting the same child. And I think the optimal route is for a parent to stay with the same spouse, which is why I'd rather people not have kids if they don't feel like the person they're with is someone that they can see living with for the rest of their life, than have kids with somebody that they don't think is good for them.
There is a distinct legal difference between being married and having kids and not being married and having kids, and the responsibility for those kids.
Well,
I'm not sure if that difference should exist. I think you could probably bear that responsibility regardless of marital status. And there's also a lot of questions about custody and is it done right? Is it Not
There,
strict enough.
yeah,
It's too strict.
we're cracking on the legal definitions of terms here, which is a massive undertaking. And also like the difference between common law and marriage. I mean, there are so many people that are living as common law partners that have kids, and legally there's really no difference between them, being married and being considered common law under let's say Canadian law. So and then obviously, and then child. Then there's the laws relating to children and custody as well. So it's
but I think if we can agree on what we're talking about when it comes to what marriage is, I think it's a contract that you believe that in most cases you're not supposed to break. Where like you are with this person, you believe that you like if you say till death do us part, you mean that. And there can be like exceptions.
Yeah,
there can be exceptions for things like abuse.
Yeah, you're talking about a very narrow definition of marriage, though. Like when my wife and I got married, there was no uttering till death do us part. We read each other our poetry about each other, and put our love into words for each other. And then the officiant said, "Okay, now the by the power entrusted in me by the province of British Columbia in Canada, you two are now married." Like there was no mention of till death do us part. That's a very that is a traditional thing you hear when people get married, but it's just not like marriage is on a spectrum, man. Like it is so spectrumized. I've been to weddings where people are wearing the couple's wearing devil horns, and it's more about Satanism and being in protest of like the traditions, but also one of their ways of protesting the traditions is to get married into the tradition of marriage under the state. So the spectrum of marriage is just like so wide and vast and customizable, in I would say in democratic nations at least.
Well, yeah, but what are the things that we believe that are universal with marriages, and what defines what a marriage is and is not?
I would point to the law.
And then it's not.
So in
the law,
I would say what is marriage according, and we can and it'll be determined by, because there is a legal element that's being codified when people get married, and again, generally that is the case. Doesn't always have to be the case. Like people can say, if we want to use a really, really broad definition, we could just say two people decide they are married, if we're using the broadest definition. But if we're talking about marriage from a legal standpoint, then we should look at what the law has to say of what marriage is.
So, but Travis, I just want to clarify something. So you don't believe that marriage is supposed to be like something that people agree to do because they want their relationship to be permanent?
No, I think that's a very traditional idea of marriage. There's a lot of benefits. Well, because for the pleasure of doing so. To celebrate your love, right? I had a family member get married recently because they just wanted to get married because they wanted to celebrate their love in front of friends and family and bring everyone together. And they wanted to do the rings because they like the rings aspect. And it was more of just like saying that, this is we thought that our love was worth celebrating in this way, and also codifying under the law for them.
Yeah, the law part of it, like in the United States, you get a lot of tax. There's a different in your tax benefits. if you're married as opposed to not being married. There's a difference in the kind of loans that you can actually access to buy properties and stuff like that. And also you have like a next of kin sort of thing, so that you have someone who you can, have that you can trust that will carry out your final wishes or your end of life things, or your, like take care of your belongings and resources and stuff after you die. You've got someone that will be in charge of that. I think though, like that's where a lot of people a lot of pushback came against, about allowing gay marriage. But the thing about it is by not allowing gay couples to get married, and pretending like that marriage is something that was like ordained under, religion, is like denying those people the benefits. Like, if I work in a plant, a factory, and I have insurance at that plant, if I'm unless I'm married, my partner cannot be listed on my policy, so I cannot add them to my medical insurance. Whereas if I was married, I would be allowed to add my partner to my medical insurance. So I think those things are very important economic, things that people don't seem to recognize when they are like opposed to like things like gay marriage and stuff. They don't realize how discriminatory not allowing two people to get married is, in as far as like economically.
Yeah. Hey, Travis, could you do me a
It's the
favor?
other way around.
One more thing before RCM, before you ask me the favor. So under Canadian law,
Yeah, sure.
marriage is defined as the lawful union of two people to the exclusion of all others. So that means you can, under Canadian law, only be married to
One person.
Yeah, one person. Yeah, legally.
Yeah. Okay. So could you look this up for me? I just like because this is a kind of goes to one of my points I was trying to make. I'm like the statistics on the outcomes of people who grow up under the household of a single parent.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know I didn't word that particularly well.
Single parent household.
I think it's the other way around, Robin. You're saying like, and I think the conservatives were wrong on this, but you're saying like, oh, the conservatives didn't want, gay marriage because they thought it was their own thing. Well, the thing is, I don't know who convinced conservatives to be so retarded on this issue. Conservatives should have said the government shouldn't be in my first marriage in the first place, and it shouldn't be treating people differently based on if they marry based on the state rules or based on the church rules. They should have argued that the state should have been completely out of it, and if the state wants to base people on like unions, they should do it like Canada, where it's just two people basically working together as a team, as opposed to like enforcing their own rules and policies on religious marriages.
Did I say anything about conservatives? Did I say that word?
I'm not saying that you were wrong. I'm saying I think the conservative. You were talking about people against gay marriage. I mean, I don't know if there's a lot of Democrats or liberals against that.
I know, but I didn't actually bring up conservatives.
Wrong.
I didn't actually bring up conservatives. But like there is a difference.
It wasn't an argument against you.
And there is a difference. Like what I'm saying though is that Christianity does not own the concept of marriage. And so I think that it was wrong. It's wrong to deny people. And like we don't force churches to, like, even though people can be married in churches, if they go to like a progressive Christian church, they can marry gay couples. We don't force like my preacher, like where I got married, my preacher, he wouldn't have married a couple necessarily that were heteros, like a man and a woman, unless he thought that they should get married, unless he approved of like their marriage or something. He would have declined to be the officiant for their marriage. And so, I
wasn't very old. Oh, sorry.
I don't think we should force churches to marry anybody, man or woman.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's a very
no. They don't. They don't have to be involved at all. I don't remember how old I was, but I must have been like 3 or 5, maybe 5 years old when my mom remarried to my stepdad. We didn't go to a damn church. We went to court, or it was either court or DEERS, which is like military DMV. Like, you don't need to go to a damn church to get married. It's a legal document. There's nothing about a church involved in it. People just like doing it in churches because it's also a pseudo-religious ceremony.
You can get married at the Elvis Presley wedding chapel in Las Vegas, and yeah.
Well, that's a chapel, but like you don't have to be in a church, and like this is how like bad we are.
But there's nothing wrong with it. But there's nothing wrong with being at a church.
About churches.
No, there's not.
I don't think it's wrong. I don't think it's bad to do it in a church or not in a church. But we're so far gone that we start talking about marriage and we're like church. This is technically, it's not involved in this at all. So, and the conservatives want to be like, oh, you can't get gay married. Like, who's to tell me I can't get gay married? You don't have to do anything with the state to get church married, to get God married. Why do I have to do anything to get gay married? It's That's stupid. True. I don't know why conservatives even care about this. It was such a dumb issue.
Because
wait, why is it a dumb issue?
Here's the argument that I heard a lot of is that it does something to the sanctity of marriage to allow gay people to be married is one of the arguments. Like it's detrimental to the sanctity of marriage, whatever that means. That was their argument. A lot of them.
So
yeah, because they're retarded.
Well, so Travis, what you posted in here, I do kind of agree with for a lot, but there's one little issue I have with it. I think that it's
so let me go over the data, Arcion, just so because we're doing a live show. I'm going to read first, and then we can get some responses because it's complicated. So, based on the available academic data, this is the conclusion. The best average environment is not simply two parents. It is two or more reliably involved caregivers within a stable, safe, loving, adequately resourced, and low conflict family system. A stable two-parent household is more likely to provide that complete package, which is why its average outcomes are better. But an excellent single parent with sufficient money, time, cooperative co-parenting, and community support can raise flourishing children, while a dysfunctional two-parent household can seriously undermine them. So here's the typical average differences. So and this is outlining the average finding for single-parent households. So with regards to physical health, somewhat poorer general health and health-related quality of life with higher exposure to poverty, stressful, and these are generalizations, right? This is the general data.
Yeah.
Stressful moves, unsafe neighborhoods, and certain risky behaviors. Physical health differences are generally less consistent than mental health and educational differences. So mental health, more emotional symptoms in general, anxiety or depression, conduct difficulties and attention problems, and this is for single-parent households, alongside somewhat lower reported quality of life. Socioeconomic disadvantage explains a substantial portion, but not necessarily all of these differences. Education for single-parent households, lower average grades, more disciplinary problems, and lower probabilities of finishing high school, attending college, and graduating. Social development, on average, more behavioral difficulties and weaker peer or family functioning, especially where separation involves conflict, inconsistent parenting, or repeated household transitions. Adult outcomes for people who were raised in single-parent households, lower average earnings and a higher probability of poverty, teen parenthood, or justice system involvement, although estimates shrink after accounting for childhood income and related disadvantages. So a major 2025, okay, yeah, I guess I still have quite a bit more to read here. A major 2025 U.S. study linked census and tax records for more than 5 million children and compared siblings exposed to the same parental divorce for different lengths of time. Divorce during early childhood was associated with lower adult earnings and college residence and higher teen birth, incarceration, and mortality. Changes in income, neighborhood quality, and distance from the non-resident parent explained an estimated 25 to 60% of these effects. This is strong evidence concerning divorce, but it should not be generalized mechanically to every form of single parenthood. So what actually appears to matter, the research suggests several interacting mechanisms. Economic resources. The U.S. data cited by the National Academies, 8% of children living with married parents were below the supplemental poverty measure in 2019, compared with over 1/4 of children living with single mothers. Statistical adjustment for income often reduces measured family structure differences substantially, sometimes by 1/3 to 1/2. So economics matters here, and that's where in the dual parent household there generally is more economy
Money
to disperse. So parental time and exhaustion. One parent must perform the earning, childcare, household management, and emotional support roles for that two adults can divide. Even an excellent single parent has only 24 hours and one nervous system. Stability, repeated transitions, separation, new partners, moves, school changes, and further breakups can be more damaging than single parent status itself. A stable single parent household may therefore outperform an unstable sequence of two parent and step family arrangements. Conflict and parenting quality. Continued hostility between parents, putting children in the middle, inconsistent discipline, and deterioration in parent-child relationships predict worse adjustment. A meta-analysis covering 115 samples and nearly 25,000 divorced families found links among interparental conflict, parenting behavior, and children's internalizing and externalizing problems, although the average associations were generally small. So support networks, grandparents, extended family, dependable co-parents, childcare, schools, and community relationships can partly supply the resources otherwise provided by a resident second parent. The crucial qualification, the proper comparison is not any two-parent home versus any single-parent home. It is closer to a stable, affectionate, cooperative two-parent household versus stable, adequately resourced, and supported single-parent household. Under the first arrangement, children have an average advantage, but a chronically violent, abusive, frightening, or intensely conflictual two-parent home is not rendered healthy merely because two adults remain under one roof. Interparental conflict has a meaningful relationship with children feeling trapped between their parents, and negative parenting behavior appears especially consequential. So one more time, from a well-beingist perspective, the best average environment is not simply two parents. It is two or more reliably involved caregivers within a stable, safe, loving, adequately resourced, and low conflict family system. A stable two-parent household is more likely to provide that complete package, which is why its average outcomes are better. But an excellent single parent with sufficient money, time, cooperative co-parenting, and community support can raise flourishing children, while a dysfunctional two-parent household can seriously undermine them. So,
right, okay. So in a way, two-parent households can be superior, but not due to just two parents alone by itself, but due to the fact that if you have that and all else is equal, they probably have all the other things that also make sharing.
The thing that matters is stability, safety, loving, adequate resources, and low conflict.
And
those are the things that matter.
And I'm glad you pointed out some way. Oh God.
Yeah. No. Go ahead. Yep.
I was gonna say I'm glad you pointed out some of the factoids you pointed out, because I was about to say, like, before we started reading that I wouldn't compare a dysfunctional two-parent household to a functioning single-parent household, because you would want everything to be equal, like to know which one is better. And I still think that like two parents is probably ideal, because you do get the complete package. more often, assuming both parents are functional. Assuming that they can function well together, and there's no abuse.
Yeah,
But,
there's
but
so and
there
that's
are ways
why
of making it work.
and that's why, like, for me as a moral well-beingist, however it's being done in the household dynamic, whether it's a single mother with her father, the grandfather in the home raising the children, what should matter ultimately are the well-being outcomes, the physical, mental, and social health outcomes of the people involved, and of course the children. I would say the children made primary. Yeah.
Yes. Children should always, in my opinion, come first. And I think that, like, this is why I get a little annoyed with people like the manosphere that tells you never date a single mom. It's like, no, that's dumb to say, because, like, there are disadvantages or like more risks that you might have dating a single mom. But assuming everything goes well, you can be just as good of a step parent as you can be a parent to a kid, and that can be very helpful to a small child.
Yeah, as soon as you remind yourself that the single mother is also a human being worth your full moral consideration, that kind of disgusting idea should just simply wash away out of your brain.
And I understand
and it's not that everyone should have the preference to date that they don't have to have they don't have to have. I'm not saying that everyone needs to have that desire in their body, but to say that nobody should date like X person, I don't think is giving them your full moral consideration.
Yeah, it's not only not giving your full moral consideration, it's also just stupid because it's not based on fact. It's
and I mean, there are caveats to that rule. Like, obviously, you shouldn't be dating a serial killer who's out on the loose. Usually, you're not going to know they're a serial killer. You should not be dating a child abuser. Obviously, there are caveats to that. I mean, a child abuser shouldn't be dating; they should be reported. So,
yes, right. They shouldn't be in public.
Right. So,
right.
Anyways, I wanted to sometimes these conversations around like two-parent household can cause people to feel poorly about their situation, because maybe there are people who listen to this show or in the room who raised under a single parent household, and it doesn't mean
divorced parents.
And it doesn't mean that you're necessarily got the shit end of the stick. You might have actually had far above the general mean when it comes to the outcomes of how you were raised and the opportunities you had, even if you had a single parent. So
and I don't want to put.
I raised both. I'm raised two children as a single parent.
Right.
And I don't this line of argumentation at all.
I'm sorry. What? CJ? What's up?
I just don't understand this line of argumentation that you have, Travis. It's like I understand that just because a statistic exists doesn't mean that every individual is going to match with the majority of that statistic, right? I understand that 100%. And if that's what you're saying, then I guess I don't disagree. But it seems like what you're saying is, okay, just because there's a statistic doesn't mean that, everyone's going to have that. Okay, that's not what people are saying. We're not saying that every individual that is in this particular situation is going to be worse off. We're just saying that this percentage of them are objectively worse off. Like, that's what the data says. Like,
well, I mean, I think
if it was the gender pay gap, and I don't think this number's true anymore, and women were on average getting 70 cents on the dollar, this was a thing that people said all the time, that doesn't mean every woman's getting 70 cents on the dollar. Some of them were getting less, some of them were getting way more. But, that doesn't mean that we're applying to every individual that statistic.
Well, I'm saying
it just means that as a society, this is a thing, and we should strive to improve this either by not allowing women to work, probably the bad way to do it, or improving women's way to work. The analogy would be not allowing single-parent homes to exist or improving single-parent homes. Just because single-parent homes are worse doesn't mean we have to stop them from existing. It could just mean that we should make it better.
Yes.
Let's let Robin get in. Let's let Robin get in.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, what we do with the statistic is what is important. Like, we can find out that this is a statistic that is happening, and it is a problem. Like, it is, because actually, I think if you look, maybe Travis, I'm not sure if you read that off about single father homes where they have a single father instead of a single mother. They generally, I think, tend to have a higher income than the single mother homes. I think that's what I read. So, like, you can check that. But
yeah, I went through the averages on single parent.
Okay,
not delineating
there is
between
like
the two.
a separate statistic on the
Of course.
average. So, like, I think that what we do with the statistic, once we get the statistic, and like you said jokingly about not allowing women to work or something like that, I think that people have different solutions to address this problem. And I feel like that some of the solutions that are being posited in our political sphere currently are actually not solutions to this. They're agenda driven things that they think that they can use these statistics to guide their political advancement, like the policy.
I actually agree with that.
Yes.
I actually agree with you, Robin, there. And that's why I don't want to get rid of no-fault divorce. My solution is to make it so that way people are less likely to want to divorce in the first place by finding ways, like in the culture, to make people more likely to find the person who's right for them and when they want to get married and have kids, and make it more likely that they aren't gonna that they don't and also helping people get out of abusive situations or see the potential for abuse before it happens, so that way they can get out of relationships like that, before they settle down and have kids with that person. Because to me, if fewer people have reasons to get divorced, then I think that would be a good thing. Because divorce always is like two people deciding that it's not working out, and if kids are involved, I think that can be detrimental.
See, they actually, under this new, our new tax bill that was passed the last time, actually, I was it actually is decreased, I lost tax benefits as a single mother. That actually, it was a pun. It's like they
punishment.
Wrote this law to punish single mothers, single parents, or whatever homes. And of course, I think if we, like in my state of Kentucky, there's a lot of resistance sometimes to teaching sex ed, because we have high numbers of teenage pregnancies, which I think result in a lot of times marriages that are as a result of a teenage pregnancy, that are actually not people who maybe 5 years down the road would find that they were even compatible with, because they got pregnant by this person as a teen and married them. And so I think that decreased, that is a major stumbling block in the success of marriages of people who marry young, because they marry because of their pregnancy or something like that.
And that's not, I think, ideal conditions to get married under. Again, my hope is that people let's assume that it's two people who are adults already, who have their life together. When they do get married, my hope is that I think this would be the most optimal. And I don't think this has to be the only way it's done. I think that that life happens, and that sometimes you have to make the best of a not so optimal situation. But I think the most optimal situation is two people get married. They actually have the ability to not only take care of themselves and a child, but they also won't mistreat each other they stay together, they raise children together or correctly, like in a healthy, well-resourced, low conflict house, all the things that Travis was talking about. And hopefully they're able to stay together for as long as they both live.
Well,
I think that
yeah.
is probably the most ideal. But again, life happens. My parents divorced. A lot of people I know divorced. And I think that there should also be help for people who aren't in the ideal, because not everyone's going to have that. There people to get divorced. Sometimes people are widowed or widowers. Life happens.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for contributing today. If you're on YouTube, you can come and join us where it's now tavern time. I'm going to try and get 2 hours of writing in tonight on the book. What else? Yeah, if you're interested in partaking in some philosophical coaching, I've reopened my suite. There's the link for you guys on Discord. You can get in touch with me at info@pang-burn.com if you're interested in finding out, getting more information on what philosophical coaching looks like. There's more information on the Discord server here as well. If you scroll down, CJ just burped right into the mic. That was hilarious. I'm sure he didn't mean to do that.
Nice.
That was a dice burp too. That was a solid one.
It was pretty solid. So if you scroll down to the Travis Pangburn tab, you'll find Trav's philosophical coaching there, and we have testimonies and all different kinds of things there. But essentially, we work on the ideas, the things that you don't typically get to work on in standardized therapy. If you're getting therapy, or if you're getting a different kind of coaching, we do really focus on the philosophy aspect, meaning, purpose, the pursuit of those things, epistemology, ethics, learning to articulate all of this conceptual organization that you have in your mind. Anyways, the first session is free if you're interested. So feel free to get in touch with me in some way if you're interested in that. But yes, we're going to head down to the tavern now. Thanks everyone for joining us today. And make sure you're out there maximizing well-being for yourself and those around you. Good night.